had a chance yesterday to get our team under the lights, which I thought was a really valuable experience. So media day is a little bit different than what we've had because we've actually played a game and had a chance to evaluate some players. And I mean, you can look at that game last night and take several things out of it. Some might not be so positive, but in a coach's eyes, where you throw so many players out there that either have never played before or literally only practiced a day or two, then you can find a whole lot of positives. In particular, just the players that, I guess what you would call the nucleus of the team, that were here in the summertime with us and through the fall workouts, just to see some of them reap some benefits of their hard work and see the improvement. I could go down the line and mention several things individually, but it's encouraging for me. And I've said to the staff many times, I've said this to the players and anybody that's asked me about this particular team, I enjoy them. I really like coaching this group of kids because they come to work every day. There's not a lot of resistance to the work, and I think that's number one on the list for players that play at this level is you can't resist the work because you can't get around it. So I think that I appreciate the fact that they're willing to learn. I mean, they spend all summer long individually with our coaches willing to learn, and they stay extra willing to learn. They go to film, they're coachable, and what they're doing that's not good or not correct right now is just simply a lack of experience, to be honest with you. And then you look at a player like LaShawn Higgs, where she knows what to do, but she still hasn't played basketball in 9 months. So the mistakes that she makes right now, she probably will correct them. Well, she will correct them, and they might not happen 2 months from now. So it's been an enjoyable bunch. I mean, it's been challenging. We've had about as much adversity as you could ask young people to go through in a span of 12, 15 months. I would say that there's been more happen than you would ask young people to have to deal with. But the bottom line is it's a reality of life sometimes. And I think sport it's a window of life. And these guys have had to face some adversity, and it's testing their character. And I mean, if you look at the game last night, and Lubbock Christian cut it. We called a timeout, and their response was really, really positive. And a lot of people would say, well, it's just Lubbock Christian. Well, that team came in here to compete, and I knew they would do that. And it was interesting to see their demeanor in the timeout and who was going to take a little bit of ownership. And as I watched that, you see a player like Jada Underwood immediately step up in the timeouts. I had a young kid today tell me that she had a lot to say at halftime. And that's really, that's encouraging, and that's what you want from a senior, that it's her time, and she's had to wait for her turn to be an integral part of our team, and she's embracing that. So injury reports, I think you guys have gotten most of those reports. I don't know that I have to reiterate that we do not have any news on Charisma Ortiz, nor do I have the ability to make a statement right now on Ashley Hannon. Audrey is out right now in concussion protocol, and Joyner, Shug, and Izzy are day-to-day. So that's our list, and everybody else I think is okay. So I do want to say that we've had some staff changes. I mean, I think everybody is aware that Terry Nooner is our new assistant coach in charge of the post players, working handily with our defense, and he has seamlessly transitioned about as easy and selfless as you could ask someone to step into a situation where it's August and they've got to get entrenched really quickly with the players, the staff, and in recruiting. And it's been a great transition for Texas. I think everybody, Rasay Caldwell has entered our staff as a video coordinator. I think most people in Texas know who Rasay is. And it's been really, really great to have her around, and I think everybody else is intact. So I'll answer some questions and move forward.
Karen, what do you think the strengths of this team is going to be?
That's a good one, because I think if we get full strength, I think our leadership is going to be really, really solid, just from a sense of having 4 seniors that have sort of been there and done it once we get into Big 12 play. I do think that we'll have, as we move along, a little more versatility at the guard position and able to give some people different looks, not only defensively but also offensively in their skill set. Again, I think that Joyner and Charlie, if you really talked about our strengths, I think when both of them are in there together, that's a pretty good high-low combination and a pretty good base for what we're looking for offensively, although I think the biggest encouragement I have right now is just the improvement in our guards and their decision-making and shooting ability. So right now, I mean, it's hard for me to answer that because we haven't had the crew together yet. We haven't had them together yet.
You've always had a few, senior leaders, obviously, on every team, but how much does it help when a few of those senior leaders are guards at that position and maybe, girls that can get a bucket at the end of the game when you really need it, like a Suge or LaShawn?
Well, I definitely think that both of those brings those different things to the table. Suge became very vocal this summer, and I think the injury set her back a little bit from thinking she could really own that, but she still made her way vocally as it went along. And I mean, she's taking this season seriously, just in a sense of, this is my last year. I think they all 4 are. And what can I do to be the best leader I can be, the best example I can be for my teammates? And I think she's tried to be that, even though she hasn't been with us. And LaShawn does, you're exactly right. She gives you a lethal score. And I think everybody could see in the first half last night that she is moving well, and maybe the fatigue set in a little bit in the second half. You could see the legs were a little bit more dead after I watched in film, and I really could see that. But that's kind of expected for no longer than she's been in live practice. But again, she can get you a bucket when you need a bucket, and I think that's going to be really important as we move along. But there are several guards that can do that.
When it comes to leadership, do you give captains, or do you expect the seniors to step up, or how do you delegate that?
Yeah, I don't do captains. Interestingly enough, I thought about it this year, and I've never done that. And I asked them about that, and they were like, "Nah, I don't think that's necessary." So sometimes if you let the players own it, it's a better decision. I think that the interesting thing about this group, because we don't have any juniors, is that when we took the team in the spring, the main conversation I had with them was, we have to be better leaders. We have to own being at the University of Texas. It has to mean something to us. And what are we going to do about it? How are we going to approach the summer and the spring together so that when the newcomers get here and we get the entire team together, what kind of message are we sending about the way we want this to be? And I think one thing we really made a conscious decision about is that the group that was here when season was over, which that ends up being your seniors to be and your sophomores to be, needed to be all leaders. Like, it didn't need to be just on Suge, and it didn't need to be just on Joyner, and it didn't need to be just on the seniors, because you have a group of sophomores that they all understand what the expectation is here too. So, I mean, luckily we decided to do that, because now we have Joanne Allen-Taylor that had to step in a leadership role and at the point guard position that, had we not had those conversations and not being a part of leadership conversations, then, maybe she's not as prepared to take on that role. Not that anybody necessarily is prepared for that, but I think if they can collectively decide to communicate together and own it, it's possibly better than just 1 or 2 people trying to run the team all the time. Case in point, that's hard for Suge to do right now.
With Danny moving on, Destiny not here anymore, who do you expect to step up, behind the arc, 3-point shooting, and where do you feel you guys are in that area?
You don't ever know until they get into the games and you see their decision making. I know that they've put a lot of time into shooting. You'd have to ask Coach Carey about that. She comes up with these crazy shooting competitions that I don't even understand. But she gets them in the gym, and I thought that they put a lot of time into just straight up shooting the basketball this summer. And yeah, you have to get them to continue that. I mean, it can't just be a summer thing. I mean, they have to keep staying in the gym and keep their shot sharp. But I thought we shot the ball pretty well last night. Thought we made open shots, which is what you need to do. And the floor will look a little bit bigger with Joyner in there and Shug in there. But I still thought that their decision-making was pretty good against the zone. And they made some open shots. We even missed some that I would expect some of them to make, that they make in practice. So, again, I wouldn't put anything on one or two kids. I think that there's enough out there that can make open shots that it's just not on one. Maybe that was what was hard for Danny last year, was that she was the one. And it was easy to key on her and easy to chase her and run her off the line. And I hope that we don't have that situation this year where it's just one player that's expected to make a three. I don't think that will be the case.
I don't know if you saw that the NCAA voted earlier today to kind of open the door for student athletes to benefit profit off their likeness. Do you have any thoughts on that, just as a coach who's been in college athletics for a while?
I don't, to be honest with you. I mean, we'll have some meetings with Chris Del Conte, and he'll probably map it out for us. I think he's been at the NCAA meetings the last couple of days, so I expect we have a head coaches meeting with him once a month, and that's next week. I would think that I would be a little more knowledgeable and have a better concept of what this is than I do right now. He's very, very good at communicating with us what the lay of the land is, and he's been at the meeting, so I'm sure we'll get abreast of that.
Just with things like social media and all that nowadays, I mean, how much has that changed that this is happening, and then it was even a topic of conversation before?
Well, social media has changed everything, good and bad. It's here to stay, and so I think that it's just two different conversations, really. I mean, the image and likeness is one probably for another time, but I definitely think that social media and outside noise and all of those things, that's a different topic, but it's here to stay, and so we have to try to manage it.
What thoughts on your non-conference schedule, and what do you kind of want to see from your team early on?
We're going to get tested really, really quickly. I can say that because South Florida is really good. And to go on their home court and challenge ourselves this early in the year, first game out, I think will be a task for this group, defensively in particular, because they're very, very good offensively. And they actually had some similar injuries last year. They were decimated with injuries, and they're all back. And they were good offensively, and those players probably didn't change much offensively. So I think it'll be a huge test for us. And, you can go down the line, talk about Arizona having the WNIT championship, postseason championship last year with several players returning. So I think that'll be a tremendous home game for us. The games in Hawaii will be very challenging, and also very challenging for our team to play 3 games in 3 days. So I think once we get through November, we'll have a very good grasp of, when you asked me earlier what is our identity and what are our strengths and weaknesses, I think we'll have a good handle on that. But I can think of one school in particular at West Virginia that did not make the tournament last year, and I think everybody would agree that it was probably strength of schedule and non-conference play. And you don't want to get caught in that scenario where you finish whatever in the league and you think you should have gotten in, and your strength of schedule is what's being talked about. And I don't think that we'll ever have that issue. That's a good thing.
Other questions? How has Celeste kind of integrated herself, and how is she fitting in with this team?
I think she's just trying to find her niche. I think most freshmen, that's kind of what they try to do. They try to figure out how to be successful in the framework of the team, and she's a very team-oriented player. She comes from an atmosphere in high school that was very much about the team, and her experiences with USA Basketball mirror that also. So I think that for her, it's just, how can I help the team? What can I do to be a contributor? For example, last night, she didn't even blink when I said, go guard the 4 player or the post player. Go run the 4 position for us offensively. She's just kind of one of those players. Jada's having to do that right now. Just do whatever I tell you to do and help the team. And I think that's what I like about this team right now is that they're not too caught up in, well, what position am I playing? And, how can I help the team? And I think that Celeste has that type of personality. If anything, she might be a typical freshman in a sense of being a little bit too hard on herself. She's going to have to relax and realize mistakes and, figure out, just go to the next thing and use her voice a little more, just simple things that freshmen have to do. But she's ready to help our team in any way she can.
Have you envisioned what kind of role Sophie's going to play this year?
First of all, I have to say that you have to give her some props for walking on the court last night and not looking like I don't know what planet I'm on. She tricked me even, but she has played 3 years of basketball in college. I think that's one thing to keep in mind. It's funny, I talked to Helen Tao this morning. I don't know if anyone remembers her, and she mentioned Sophie, and she said, does she realize what kind of shoes she's having to fill? And I thought that was hilarious because, everybody knows the story of Helen. And Sophie is not necessarily in that category just from a sense of she just finished playing Division I basketball. So she understands practice and the expectations and all of those things. And she takes whatever she does seriously. She graduated in 3 years and is in the Macomb School. That should tell you something. So she studied the playbook all weekend. She's not going to walk out there and look unprepared at all, and that's just her personality. And I think that I just have to appreciate her. She's willing to step on our floor and just do whatever the team needs her to do and be a part of it in a short notice, and I appreciate that. What role she'll play, I don't really know the answer to that, but I think that's not what she's worried about. I think she's excited to wear a Texas uniform. She's an Austin kid, played at Westwood, and she's really appreciative of this opportunity, and it's refreshing.
I don't think you need a double-double every night from Charlie, Coach, but what do you need to see from her from freshman to sophomore year and her biggest jump that she needs to take for the team to be successful and herself to make the big
Well, if they gave 10 fouls, I bet you she'd have a double-double every night. No, I just spoke to Charlie a little while ago. She's kind of a typical sophomore that knows that she's ready, but is still going to make some freshman mistakes and doesn't expect herself to do that. And I think that sophomores have to get over that. You're going to make some mistakes that are going to look just like they did your freshman year. It's not like you went from A to Z. And, you went from being a freshman to a sophomore. So get off yourself a little bit. Focus on practice every day. She looks different in practice right now than she does in the games, and that's very typical because she's still a little bit nervous, so to say. That sounds stupid because she's such a good player, but there are some butterflies, and I don't want to make a mistake, and she'll get over that eventually, and you'll start to see the production that I think we all expect. Her shot is beautiful. She's worked on it all summer. She's worked on her footwork, but she's got to stay in the game, and we all know that, and that will be something that she'll get better and better at as we roll along. I'm not worried about Charlie at all. It'd be different for me if she wasn't working hard in practice, but the results will come when a kid works in practice, which I would say that about our team right now. The results will come. They don't necessarily come when they want them to come all the time, but they will come if they'll just stay constant with how they practice. I truly believe that. I don't think you can get around what you do in practice.
Story of you guys getting Sophie and her joining the team.
Can you say that one more time?
What was the story behind Sophie joining the team and how did she end up becoming a Longhorn?
Well, the story is the injuries. You just get to a point where you're like, okay, is there any way we can think outside the box here, and we always have walk-on tryouts here where we sort of advertise, but I think that Kelby Jones did a great job sort of researching. Is there anybody on campus that maybe played basketball at some other point? And he stumbled upon there were two kids, Sophie and another young lady that I think potentially played at Westlake, that are on campus right now. And he approached her and just said, would you be interested in coming and, I don't want to say trying out, but just sort of practicing and getting your feet wet and see how you feel about it. And then he did the groundwork with that, and I met with Sophie, and she was all for it. I mean, as long as she could get her class schedule straightened out. I mean, she came here to get her master's at the McCombs, and so I think that was important for her not to find a glitch in that plan, and we were able to do that.